Hey guys, it's Candy again, and I've had quite a few comments about my last video, and I do have to apologize. It was just chaotic. So today I just want to show you some regular markers. This is a Stampin' Up! Marker. Many of you guys have invested in those. This is just a watercolor brush. It was like a $10, not even, at Michael's, like probably 10 years ago. I don't even know, but just a regular marker. And then also a just like a Crayola or Rose Art, like what your kids have for school. So I just real quick want to show you, and I'm not going to color the whole thing in today. I thought that was going to be a little too aggressive, but just show you how you can use your regular markers with a water brush. Now, if you don't have a water brush, you can also use just a paintbrush with a little bit of water. You are going to want, if you're using a paintbrush, you have a napkin to kind of dry up, because you're not going to have as much control over the water in your brush as you would with one of these pens. But I just real quick wanted to show you how you can color in your images and get a really nice results with just these kind of markers. So again, I'm coloring on my block, and I'm going to pick up some of the color, and I'm just going to color in her dress. And you can go as dark, and as you go more to, it's going to be light. And this is just regular white cardstock that you get from Michael's. And you can go light or dark, and go over. And after you're done, if it's not quite dark enough, you can always go back over it. So I usually go a little light to start, and then because you can always add more color. But as you can see, just a regular old marker out of your kid's coloring box, it really does a nice result. So I'm going to try to hurry here and just kind of get this in here. And if you let it dry a little bit. Now if you go over this regular paper too much, it can start to come up on you, but I don't really have a really hard time with that. And it dries, and sometimes it could get wrinkled if you use too much water. And what I do then was, when it's totally dry, I just get my iron out and put a piece of paper over the top of it and iron it flat. But really haven't had too many problems with warping. And so I just want to show you, and this image is from Tallulah Girls Digis that I got a while back ago, but I had 3 of them printed up, and I thought this would be really good for that. So as you can see, not too bad for just a regular marker. So I'm going to dry that off. Now this is my Stampin' Up! Marker. I'm going to do the next one. And they're not exactly the same color, so I try to get close. So this one, same thing. You just put your marker on your block, and you can go dark or light. And I do a lot of coloring like this too, and it's not real expensive. So before I bought my Copics or any of my Zig markers, this is pretty much how I colored all the time. Now the Stampin' Up! Markers are a little bit darker pigment, so sometimes blending can be a little bit harder than some of the cheaper ones, but it gives a really fun look. So like I say, and I'm not being careful, I'm just kind of whipping it on here. And again, just like yesterday with the watercolor markers, sometimes the messier you are, the better it looks. And hopefully you guys can see this. Hopefully I'm in frame. My camera is kind of positioned funny, so I can't really see what's on there. So, and I'll do a close-up on all these here in a minute. So this is just the water brush marker that I got at Michael's. And again, I'm just putting it on here, and like I say, you can go really dark, really light. And if you're not sure how dark, you can always start a little bit off the page and then go on. So if you don't want that real dark, you just go off a little bit, and then it starts a little bit lighter. Or if you want the dark, and usually what I do with the dark, I just start on the edges, or where I think it'd be dark for shadows, and then just pull the color out. But as you can see, your regular markers that you just have laying around your house, you can get awesome colors. The only ones that this doesn't work with is the alcohol markers. So if you've got a Copic or a Sharpie, you can't really do this with those kind of markers. And sometimes what I do too is I'll lay down water first on the page and then have it kind of sprawl out. As you can see, I went really dark there. I don't know why I did that. So, but anyway, hope you guys find this helpful. Like I say, and as it dries, it looks really cool. And then if you're not happy with it, you can always go back over later. So I'm going to pull this up so you can see close. So this was just the regular kid marker. This is the Stampin' Up! Marker. And this was just a watercolor brush marker that I had picked up for next to nothing. So you can see you can get some shading in here, some different depths. So anyway, hope you guys find that helpful, and hope you guys can pull out your markers. And like I say, you don't even need a water brush, just a paintbrush and a little bit of water. So I hope you guys are all having a great day. We'll talk to you real soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.